I want to chat with this body a little bit about election security, though, just to give a quick update. As many of you know, the Department of Homeland Security has been actively engaged in trying to be able to fix what they can on election security leading up to the 2018 election time period. I have absolutely zero doubt that the Russians tried to meddle in our elections in 2016. They started in 2014, trying to strategically plan for how they were going to try to interfere in our election, both with social media, false news, as many different ways as they can to be able to get out information and misinformation. They started the process early. They planned and executed well, quite frankly. But they exposed a weakness in our system. We're an open society that's exceptionally trusting of each other. And we're not used to having a foreign entity try to reach in and try to be able to influence us like that. What the Russians exposed in 2016, we should be well prepared to be able to push back against in 2018 and 2020 and not be caught off guard again. The Russians reached in and scanned multiple states in their election systems. They were looking at voter rolls, trying to figure out if they could get access to those. Now, they can't change votes by just looking at voter registration, but they could go in, if they can look at it and download those files, they could also change those files, edit names, edit addresses, and suddenly people show up to vote and they're not really registered anymore. Or they're registered at a different precinct. They could create chaos on election day just by going in and editing those things. They could go into Secretaries of State's unofficial results websites and during the day of the election actually start putting up false election results or changing algorithms and numbers in that so that when numbers are added, they actually count wrong, just to create uncertainty in the process. So when the actual election day comes, the unofficial results come out, they're not reliable, and everyone doubts the system itself. Again, that doesn't change votes, it doesn't change outcomes, but it certainly destabilizes the system. We should be aware of that. We have multiple states, and there's not many, there's around 10 to 12 states, that they cannot audit their elections when the election day comes and goes. That means they're completely counting on the machine to be able to keep an accurate count. Now, that machine is not attached to the internet. In fact, there's no state that has their election equipment attached to the internet of the day of the vote, but most every one of them does a software update right before they go into the election time. If any entity were to be able to get into any one of those third-party software companies that when the update is done, just puts a bit of software code in there that just messes with the machine, you would literally not know if that election result was reliable or not. Now, did that happen last time? No. Were the Russians looking to try to find different software companies and the different types of makes and models of those companies that make our election machines? Yes. We should take that as a warning shot. That last time they were looking, next time they may be coming to mess with it and change it. We should be well prepared for that. We have a piece of legislation. It's a very straightforward piece about secure elections. Myself, Amy Klobuchar, Kamala Harris, Lindsey Graham, Susan Collins, multiple of us that have all engaged in this one simple issue to say, how do we stabilize our election system? Because elections are run by states and should be run by states. There's no reason for us to federalize elections. But the federal government should walk alongside states and to say some simple things. We're going to have quick communication between the states and the federal government. So if a foreign entity is trying to be able to reach in to your state to mess with your system, we can quickly let you know about it. And we can help you in the process of protecting your state. The last time that this occurred in 2016, it was months before Department of Homeland Security was able to actually engage with those states and to let them know what was really happening was a foreign actor and to be able to help them with their security. We've got to be faster on that. We want to be able to streamline that communication. We want to encourage states that when they buy election equipment, they get election equipment that they can audit their elections on the day of the election. Now, the federal government should not pick their equipment. Those states should, because it's a state responsibility. But we should incentivize them to actually lean in and make sure their equipment is good. Because at the end of the day, on a presidential election, we're all counting on every other state to make sure their election systems are good. And if they're not, it's a problem for all of us. We want to make sure that there's not only streamlined communication, that there's not only good auditable equipment, but that we actually give classification to individuals so that they can deal with classified information. That didn't happen last time, and so again, it was months before there was any contact back and forth because the federal government wanted to notify the state of what was happening, but no one had the clearance to be able to get the information. Well, let's fix that. DHS is in the process of fixing that, but we'd like to put in legislation that just remains so. So in the future, we don't lull ourselves to sleep again. Because last time it was the Russians. Next time it could be the North Koreans. Next time it could be the Iranians. Next time it could be a domestic hacktivist group that's just mad at somebody for something, and they've learned the vulnerabilities that the Russians pointed out. In the days ahead, we need to secure our system for our elections. It's not a partisan issue, shouldn't be a partisan issue. But it should be something we would learn the lesson of. We're quickly learning the lessons about vulnerability and cyber vulnerability in our pipelines, in our electric grid, in our phone systems, internet fiber, and in our election systems, and in our banking and multiple other areas. We just should learn this lesson and learn it well. There are people that mean to do us harm, that they're not necessarily going to attack us bodily, but they don't like our growing economy and they don't like our values. They don't like our openness, and they want to use our openness against us. We can't imagine doing that to someone else. They practice doing that to us. We need to put up a basic guard, and we need to communicate to nations and nation states around the world, if you come and attack us, this is going to be our response, so that they clearly know what they're facing when they come after us next time. It happened once, it'll happen again. Let's make sure that we're ready. Let's pass this issue about safe elections and get our elections secure, and so that we can trust the results year after year after year as we have in the past. With that, I would yield the floor.